In the last episode of The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 5, The Jedi, with Ahsoka Tano, we got a galaxy full of new information and name drops. Of the many things that we learned, Tython is where Mando must take Grogu. Tython is the most pivotal planet in Star Wars lore. It is where the first Jedi come from. Now, before we begin, I want to briefly say that I think going to Tython will lead to a lot of really crazy things. If you didn't watch the breakdown video, go check that out, but I believe it will lead to Luke Skywalker, or at the very least, some very ancient Jedi who have been living on Tython for all these years. There's this series of comics called Dawn of the Jedi. I highly recommend them. They're an awesome read and really give you an understanding of the lore behind Tython. I'm going to summarize the events of the planet and bring it to life a little bit in this video, so when you do go into watching the next episode of Mando, or whenever Mando takes Grogu to Tython, you'll be up to par. Should the show use old Legends lore, which I think they might draw things from. Tens of thousands of years before 0 BBY, or in other words, before Episode 4, there was a calling in the Force. On the planet Ando Prime, the Dai Bendu attended an edifice. They called it the Tho Yor. The monks of the planet knew the Tho Yor was not of their world, and yet it called to them with secrets and mysteries beyond its walls, awaiting their arrival. From all reaches of the galaxy, 7 other Tho Yor repeated this process. They would visit varying home worlds of varying species, from Kashyyyk to Dathomir, Dathomir to Ryloth, and Ryloth to Manaan, and so on. By instinct, these beings knew the answers they sought lay beyond their own world, and the first step was to accept the invitation to enter aboard the Tho Yor. The 8 ships met at the center of the universe, where they met at their final destination, Tython. Waiting for them here was the 9th and final Tho Yor, the most massive one of them all. This final destination at the center of the universe was Tython. Tython raged with electrical storms. It swelled with mystical energy that called to the settlers, the same energy that urged them to board the Tho Yors, a primal, old and ancient energy that would later be called the Force. On this day, travelers became one in the Force. The 8th Tho Yor separated from the 9th to all corners of the planet, delivering the settlers. They left them here, and thus they became Tythons of Tython. Over time, their purpose became clear. It was to understand this magic that pulled them here in the first place, the magical force that surrounded the entire being of the planet. They were to master this magic, this force. Their lives became a moving meditation instead of the typical sedentary one that we've all seen millennia later. As they observed their new world, Tythons noticed 2 moons revolving around them, Ashla and Bogan. These were their names, the light and the dark. The light defined the dark, and the dark the light. Whenever balance was not maintained on the planet, it would revolt in storms of fire and quakes. The Tythons would need to understand the balance of the Force and to own it, never steering too far to the right or the left. Balance was the key to survival. During this seeking of balance, they became known as the Jedi, which was a Dai Bendu term meaning mystic center. Only through harmony of balance could the Jedi maintain a peaceful Tython. Over more millennia, the Jedi built monuments, temples, and a thriving civilization. However, those strongest in the Force would go on to survive, the planet purging the weakest by force. Those who could not use the Force put the planet out of harmony, out of balance, and therefore for the sake of everyone else, had to go. In the 2nd millennia, a second migration happened. The Tythons who were not Jedi left Tython, going to the moons of Ashla and Bogan, the light and dark, and then beyond that even, to further populate the rest of the star systems. This was a time of sorrow and sadness, as families were ripped apart, mothers, fathers, sons and daughters, siblings and friends. As the Jedi grew, their creed was developed, which summated to peace. Their creed was as follows: there is no ignorance, there is knowledge. There is no fear, there is power. I am the heart of the Force. I am the revealing fire of light. I am the mystery of darkness, in balance with chaos and harmony, immortal in the Force. Over time, the Jedi went from temple to temple, seeking knowledge and mastering the Force. The children of Jedi spread out across the Tython system and beyond. As time passed even more, the Jedi looked over settled worlds as the Force instructed them, or as requested, becoming mysterious and feared figures of legend to those not like them. Now, the children of Jedi became estranged from their parents. One such was Queen of Shikakwa, Queen Hadia, who united crime barons on her planet and then pressed other settled worlds to her service. She strayed far away from the will of the Jedi or the Force. Her will became what she followed, and such strayed away from the belief of balance that the Jedi held so dear. The children of the Jedi returned to destroy her and her army. It was a tough battle, but they had the Force as their ally, and while suffering many casualties, became victorious. As Master Ketu, a Jedi Master, teaches his students of the history of their world, he informs them that hate and anger have their uses, that anger can cleanse like fire, but one must never only feel hate or only feel anger. That brings one out of balance, and that is not the way of the Jedi. So I'd like to say that this is a massive discrepancy between what the Jedi Order during the times of the Republic have in their heads as the true way of the Force. They believe that you must be only in the light, and this according to the original Jedi, and their understanding of the original Force is not the way. This puts them out of balance, and if you're out of balance, favoring one side over the other, danger is imminent, which we saw with the Jedi during the Republic, leading to the rise of the Sith and the Empire. Now, Master Ketu informs that in the light there is a darkness, and in the darkness a light. Be a prisoner of neither Bogan nor Ashla. Strive to live in balance, as Tython itself teaches us. That's the main history of Tython and its people. Now, the comic goes further into other issues and basically distant on the planet Tatooine, which is the first time that we get to see the Rakata and their Force Hound, Zesh. We see that Zesh was a Force wielder who hunted down those like him at the Rakata's request. Whereas here on Tatooine, we can see him sniffing out this family and amongst them killing the Force-sensitive son, for he had Force abilities. This was at the request of the Rakata. The Rakata were an even more ancient species than the Tythons. Eventually, the story falls into the origins of Zesh and his mentor Luke, and the heroes of Tython, and then of course, the overseeing powerful Rakata, as they control worlds from their stronghold on Biss. The comic has 5 issues, but the first one dives deep into the origins of the planet. The next set of issues after these 5 falls under the line Dawn of the Jedi Prisoner of Bogan, when Zesh fights heroes of Tython and then bumps his head to forget who he is, kind of like Revan, later taking us to Bogan and learning about Luke and Zesh. I highly recommend this story and comic series, so if you're going to start with one, I would start with this first issue here, and the series. Now, even if they don't pull much from it from The Mandalorian, it is the original story of Tython and the Jedi and the Force, so it's really quite essential to understanding Star Wars, and it's fun. Hope you enjoyed this video, have an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, remember, the Force will be with you, always.